Tuesday morning here at Stewcare, and we're having to swap things around a little bit because we had a typical Monday issue at the office with the spindle going out on the big machine. They got that on order, so it should be in a few days, and we're having electrical gremlins in our maroon dually, so they had to tow it to the shop. So we're going to just make do with what we can today and get done what we can and just make it look like Stewcare's been there.
So right now we are smack dab in the middle of the 100 days of help. And what that refers to, we got this from our friends at Go Lawn. This refers to, for us, it's the second quarter of the year, April, May, and June. That's when we are doing 50% of our lawn care work in 33% of the time. So for us, that involves springtime cleanups, springtime aerations, 2 lawn applications for fertilizer, on top of all the mowing we have to do. And then combine that, especially here in the month of May, we have 3 graduation ceremonies that we have to prepare campuses for, and we have 3 cemeteries that we have to get ready for Memorial Day services. So that makes it very tough to budget our time. Some days seem to be a little bit harder and a little bit longer than the others, but it's not something we haven't been through before. Lawn dogs are hanging in there. We're doing real good. We just take one day at a time, one task at a time. We'll get through it just fine. We're looking forward to having a good season so far. It is looking good. At this time last year, in 2012, we were kind of leveling out and plateauing because it was starting to dry out. Here we are, not quite halfway through May, and we're still at the bottom of the mountain looking up, which is a good feeling, actually. It's nice to know that the grass is growing strong. There's no end in sight, which is good, which means we should have a good lawn season. So I'm going to get back to work, put the blades to grasses. Anybody didn't know, senior's going to get another year younger. So we have some breakfast sandwiches for everybody, senior included. Dale, you got a lighter? Light his candle for him, please. Let's sing a little happy birthday.
No, it's not.
Yes, come on. Let's start the day off right.
No, it's
There's no fireworks this year, so don't worry about it. Eat a sandwich, guys. All right, everybody, ready?
I had one more mortar I could have brought it.
With the morning voices. 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear senior.
I'm just glad I'm still
Happy birthday to you. Make a wish. wish and blow it out before it burns the foil. You ask, we answer. It's time for some viewer mail. Travis writes in, for springtime growing, should I set my cutting height to 3 inches or 3.5 inches? Last year I had it on 2.5 inches, and I was wondering if that's too low for springtime or not. It's a great question, Travis. I really appreciate you writing in. In the lawn care industry, there is the universal 1/3 rule when it comes to cutting heights. And what that means is basically never cut off more than 1/3 of the blade of the grass at a time. Because what happens is if you take too much off at one time, you can encourage thatch buildup in the turf, which is very detrimental to turf. What that'll do is that'll encourage this thatch layer to build up, and then it prevents any rain from penetrating into the soil. It prevents any turf fertilizer from penetrating into the soil, whether you're fertilizing, whether you're treating for insects, whether you're treating for weeds. It basically becomes an impenetrable layer and is very, very detrimental to turf. So, my little crude diagram I have here on our dry erase board, this represents a 6-inch cutting height of red grass. I don't know about anybody else out there, but I've never seen red grass, but for this demonstration, it's going to have to do. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take 1/3 of the blade off at one time. So I'm going to set my cutting height to 4 inches. I'm going to take 2 inches off at one time. You go one time, blam, you got a 4-inch cutting height, you got a nice even straight cut, and you've not taken off more than you should to encourage a thatch buildup. That's a great rule to follow. We do something very similar to that here at the company. What we tell our guys is when it comes to mowing, when it comes to setting your cut height, always take as much off as you can without leaving a blanket, without leaving clumps in the lawn. What that does, just like the 1/3 rule, is that hopefully will minimize the chance for thatch buildup. As far as an overall cutting height, though, incorporating this 1/3 rule, Travis states that he was cutting, asking maybe between 3 to 3.5 inches. That's perfect. That's what we aim for here at our company. In the springtime, like what we're experiencing right now, we're lucky to get below 4 inches right now because the conditions are absolutely perfect. But ideally, you want to try to keep your cutting height around 3.5 inches. And we like to do that because then as you go into the summer months, as you get into the hot months, by keeping it a little bit longer, around 3.5, that allows that blade of grass to stay a little bit healthier if it goes into like a dormant stage. But it also kind of creates a cooler turf, soil temperature at the turf, which then will prevent it from burning out and drying out as well. As the cutting season goes along, slowly try to bring your cutting height down to where by the end of the season, as you're heading into the fall and into the winter months, you want to try to be right around 3 inches, if not maybe a little bit below that. That's what we aim for here. It's pretty much a standard 1/3 rule practice. It keeps the turf healthy, and it just keeps the grass growing, keeps it looking nice. Keeps it greener, longer, which extends your cutting season a little bit. Hopefully that answers Travis's question. If there's any other lawn dogs out there that have questions for us, please feel free to send us an email at stewcare@gmail.com. We'll be happy to answer them. But Travis, I appreciate you writing in. Hopefully that answered your question as far as the cutting height. I think you're right on point with that 3 to 3.5 inches. 2.5 might have been a little too low. So good luck to you this cutting season. Keep putting those blades to grasses.
Well, good morning. Here we are, May 28th, the day after Memorial Day. We just finished what Stewcare considers our Hell Week. May is a big, big month for us. We have 3 graduations and 3 cemeteries. All have to be ready by Memorial Day. That makes a lot of work for us. We're having a very good season for a change. The weather's been beautiful. We're having very timely rains. Grass is thick and green, and I'm loving it. Yeah.
Hey, I think we have our electrical gremlin back.
On our truck?
The maroon truck. I pulled it out this morning, ran fine. It's up to the building here. I'm going to back it up, do some fueling or whatever. Won't start.
Nothing at the key.
No. The ignition comes on, I get the idiot lights, but I can't get it to crank.
Let me take a look at it with you. Try it first. Everything looks good here. Pull that little box. Check the fuse box inside.
I think I know what the problem is.
What's the deal?
The loose fuse right here.
Push it in, see what happens. Never a dull moment.